That is it. We are final from Neville Arena. Auburn wins 84-68. Great game from Auburn all around. Come on inside of Lobtown as we react to what's going on. Auburn gets the first win in the SEC, kicking it off. Share the live while y'all are out here, man. We are going to get into this game and talk a little bit about what we saw from the Auburn Tigers today in their first matchup inside of the new SEC season here. Again, Auburn wins 68-84. Bruce Pearl, now the winningest coach, tied for the most winning coach in Auburn history. So great game overall. Jump on in here. Let's talk about all of the things. And appreciate you guys for jumping in here, man. Let me turn this other game off because I don't really care what happens over there with those guys. Well, I'll watch it later. But yeah, man, I appreciate everybody who jumped in here with me. Of course, we did our watch party with Green Name Gang. It's good to be able to talk with y'all during the game. Definitely want to get your thoughts on this. Janai Broom comes up with 24.7 boards, 2 assists in this game. Denver Jones, Chad Baker-Mazar, the next leading scorer with 13 points on 3 of 4 shooting. Very efficient day for Chad Baker-Mazar. He gets 3 boards and 2 assists. And then you have 2 guys, Chaney Johnson now with 13, 5 of 7 shooting. Efficient game for him. 7 boards for Chaney and 2 assists. And then 2 guys with 10 points, Denver Jones and Tahad Pettiford. Both of those guys shooting comparable, 3 of 7 and 3 of 8. 7 assists as well for Denver Jones. So overall, a really good game. Definitely appreciate everybody jumping in. If you haven't already, go ahead and share the content with somebody out there. We definitely want to get some thoughts from all of the people who've had an opportunity to watch this game. Biggest thing for me in this game was I just don't feel like Auburn took care of the ball well enough, right? And that's crazy to say in a game where Auburn wins by 16 that they didn't take care of the ball well enough, but some very sloppy moments there. 16 turnovers. Now, Auburn forced 16 turnovers as well, but 16 turnovers in this game for both teams. And Auburn's turnovers, a lot of them were just very lazy things. Now, Missouri is a good team at forcing turnovers, but just lazy stuff happening there. But Auburn shot a healthy 57% from the field, 28 of 49 from the field, including 48% from 3 on 10 of 21 3-pointers, holding Missouri to just 38%. If you guys were on at halftime with me or you were on the watch party with me, then you know that I feel as if a team, how you're forcing the bad percentages is important. And what Auburn did was they forced Missouri into tough shots, which is what led to the low field goal percentage. Missouri wasn't missing a bunch of good looks. They were making some difficult shots, and they were being forced into some tough misses. So a really good defensive game overall from Auburn. The defending without fouling idea, not a terrible job of defending without fouling. 21 personal fouls in this game for Auburn to 20 for Missouri. So fairly even as far as the whistle is concerned. I do think that Auburn got a couple of foul calls they probably shouldn't have in that game. If my count was correct, about 8 or 9 of those were bad calls, and Auburn really only got the benefit of the whistle twice, in my opinion, as far as calls that should have gone in the other direction, and Missouri did not get that. So, but overall, I'm not going to complain about the rest of the game Auburn won. I'm not going to complain about the turnovers in the game that Auburn won, but there are some things that need to get cleaned up as you get into this next game, which is going to be on the road against a very tough team on the road. Well, I say very tough team. I just think that the SEC is difficult, but of the road games that you could have, South Carolina is probably the one that you would hope for to start the season off. So, Auburn's really playing some of the teams that are on the lower end of the conference as far as talent is concerned. But overall, again, a very good game for Auburn, winning this game 84 to 68. Again, shooting 57%. Free throws not great for Auburn, 75%, 18 of 24. They went to the line 24 times. Missouri went 26 times. So again, it feels even when you look at the numbers, but I still think that Auburn got screwed on quite a few calls there. But what's new? And it will be worse when they go on the road. But anyway, let's get over here to the comment section, see what you guys are talking about. Appreciate you jumping in here. A lot of War Eagles in the chat. Devin says this team is fantastic to watch. I agree. It feels good watching teams get double-digit wins consistently. See. Prentice Jones says, how many turnovers did Auburn have in the second half? Well, let's take a look at that second half statistics for Auburn. In the second half of this game, turnovers were 11 turnovers in the second half for Auburn. So again, turnovers in total for the game was 16. 11 of those came in the second half of this game. So not a great, very sloppy second half for Auburn offensively in that regard. Ben Bloodworth says it never felt at risk. You are right. They were in control for the vast majority of this game. Brad G jumps in and says sloppy passes. That was absolutely what happened with those turnovers. Agreed. Ben says that Calipari is a fraud. I don't know about fraud, but he definitely he's got some work to do with that Arkansas squad. He basically had to rebuild the squad from the jump or from the ground up after all of the things happened. But you know, the team that he left from, Kentucky, was out there doing work today. So let's see. Amber Sapp jumps in and says, War Damn Eagle 1-0 in SEC play. You're darn right about that, Amber. Jim Habersham Jim says the Tech call was trash. I agree. Terrible call. Doug Dozier says this was Pettiford's worst game. Still had 10. I agree with that as well. I don't know if it was his worst game. He had a pretty bad game early, but it wasn't a good game for him for sure. I've commented on that multiple times during our watch party that I just didn't feel like Tahad was playing very well at all. The offense seems stagnant. I think I think they need to figure out a different kind of set to call with Tahad in the game to allow him to take advantage of the things he does well, which Tahad is a really good ISO player, and Auburn does not do a lot of ISO ball. So I think they need to try to get more ISO opportunities for a guy like Tahad, or getting more into the pick and roll type or the ball screen action. So Auburn's got to do a better job, I think, of maybe calling action with Tahad in the game to make sure that he is doing his due diligence to be effective offensively out there. Prentice says, yeah, we need to talk about Tahad looking like a freshman. I mean, he definitely looked like a freshman, right? He's going to have freshman moments during the best portion of this season, which is going to be SEC play. So, you know, just got to be patient with the freshman moments out there and let him work his way through it. Make Auburn great again says lazy passes in this game, in my opinion. Sorry if you all already cover it late to the podcast. Definitely talked about, or at least mentioned the fact that the passes were a little lazy out there. They've got to clean some of that up. But again, you got to think about it. Missouri is one of the best teams in the country, not just in the conference, but in the country at forcing turnovers. So you're not going to have teams that are going to be playing this way. And I told you guys in the pregame, it's going to look a lot like the Iowa State game as far as the way that they want to defend out front. I don't think Missouri has the same caliber of guards out front, but they definitely have the ability to force some turnovers, and that's what they did in this game. So Auburn's got to clean some of that stuff up in their execution for sure. Ben says, congrats to Coach Pearl for tying the all-time wins Auburn record for sure. Congrats to Coach Pearl in that. I'm sure they're going to talk about that in the post-game press conference. DJ's step back is a thing of beauty. Talking about Denver Jones there. Denver Jones had a couple of nice step backs there. One of those for 3. Riley Mobley said he's back with Green Name Game. Appreciate you very much for those of you who are members. Hopefully the live stream watch party went well for the folks that tuned in for that. Appreciate all of y'all for sticking in with me, listening to me rant about things during this game. Brad G said, I thought the commentary on TV was funny discussing Pettiford's excessive dribbling, which goes to your ISO comment. Yeah, I mean, he was dribbling the ball a lot and then it would get stuck, right? Like there were possessions where he had the ball in his hands for 10, 12 seconds. And that's something that Auburn actually had happen quite a bit last year with their point guards, where the ball wouldn't get out of the point guard's hands for a large portion of the possession. And then you'd end up with a shot jacked up from that guy. And that happened to Tahad a couple of times in this, or he turned the ball over a couple of times, near turnovers on others. So he has to get into the flow of the offense a lot better than what he did in this game if he's going to be effective in SEC play, because there's going to be a lot of physicality out front. They don't need to whistle to get him some foul calls though, because the whistle has not been in his favor very much. And I just don't know what to do about that, because he got fouled quite a bit going to the rim and did not get foul calls on that. Um, let's see here. Mike Davis says refs kept this from being a 30 piece. I won't disagree with that. They definitely took over in the second half of this game. Can't have Auburn making the other SEC schools look bad. I feel you there. Riley says that happened to Wendell and KD a lot. It did. Like I said, there was previous iterations of this where it would just feel as if there's a lot of dribbling and not very much movement. But I do think that the way in which Auburn was what the remedy for that when Wendell was out there or KD was out there is they were doing a lot of high ball screen action, right? And the issue was that Wendell wasn't making the best passes out of that, or they were just doubling on him to force the ball out of his hand, but he couldn't see over the top of the double team. That's probably going to be a similar issue for Tahad if they get into that action. But I think that they need to figure out different action to run with Tahad in the game. Um, not South Carolina, that's the next game. Excuse me. Missouri did a really good job of taking away what Auburn likes to do in the flex action. And so they didn't run flex as much in this game. And I think Tahad has in previous games run more flex when he's been in there at point guard. This is the things that people don't think about is the fact that number one, he is a freshman. Number two, he didn't come in as a point guard. He was really trying to be an off guard. So a lot of what he worked on in the offseason was not running the action as a PG. He was running it as the off guard. So he's trying to get they're trying to run things that he's comfortable with win the game. And Missouri took away a lot of the stuff that he's comfortable with. So I just think that you have to have a little patience with a freshman who's still learning his role on this team and trying to figure out the best way to be able to be the guy that Auburn needs him to be. So I'm looking forward to seeing Tahad's maturation as the season progresses. Other notable things in this game, Chad Baker-Mazar, 2 of 3 from 3. You had 2 of 5 for Tahad Pettiford. Jakai hit the only 3 that he took, and Chaney hit the only 3 that he took. Otherwise, Denver shot 6 3-pointers in this game. But I like Denver being aggressive out there from the 3-point line because he's such a good shooter. He had been on a heater lately, so I'm not mad at him taking the shots that he took. I didn't feel like Denver took very many bad shots. Auburn didn't have a lot of bad shots in the game in general. Denver Jones did a really good job, I think, of though he didn't make a high percentage of them taking quality shots. I'm watching this Bama game right now, and Grant Nelson is just straight up fouling people right now. And I talked about this during, I think it might have been halftime or during the watch party about sometimes when coaches try to implore players to be more physical, what they translate that is to throw in bows and things of that nature. And I think Grant Nelson has been getting knocked for his physicality. So he's just out there pushing people around right now as opposed to making basketball plays. But anyway, Ben jumps in and says, I miss Sonny Smith. Well, on the call, you're talking about on the radio calls. And Elston, this is a new name. Elston Dacus says, definitely need more motion to get Kelly going. Also, Miles Kelly needs to finish better at the rim. He had too many drives where he threw prayers up instead of being intentional. I think Miles was actually getting fouled on quite a bit of those prayers that he was throwing up and they weren't called. So, I think Miles actually finishes really well around the rim, but he was getting fouled quite a bit and with no calls out there. One Fly says, great SEC opener win. Agreed very much. If you're out here and you haven't liked this video, then you are already wrong. Please go ahead and share the video with somebody out there. We're reacting to Auburn getting the victory 84-68 to open SEC play at home, keeping that home win streak alive as well. Great game overall from the Auburn Tigers. Definitely things to work on. So these are the kind of games that when you are a really good team that you actually like as a coach, a game where they say good teams win, great teams cover. Auburn didn't cover, so they don't look great today. They look good. And you have enough sloppiness in a big enough win where you get your subs in that you're able to go and look at film and say, hey, guys, this is what I've been telling you. We're not where we need to be. We've got a lot that we need to work on. Coach Bruce Pearl and company are going to have a lot to be able to go back and look at on this film to keep this team locked in and humble because you won the game, but there are a lot of things that you could have done much better, and this game could have been a 30-pointer. Riley Mobley says Miles needs to get back in rhythm. He'll be fine. Miles is coming back off of the wrist injury, and he does have some work that he needs to do to get his rhythm going. But I think he'll have plenty of opportunities to get shots up as this season progresses for sure. Ben Butworth, Grant's mustache assaults me every Bama game. Yeah, I don't know what's happened with him in that, but I agree. Who's number 2 for Bama? Can't read the name. Unfamiliar. Don't know. Not I don't pay attention to their numbers that much, so don't know. I'm looking at the game, but I don't know. I legitimately don't know who number 2 is for Alabama. From what you're saying, I have a clue as who it might be, and if it is, and I'm not familiar with that player at all. I didn't even know they played basketball still. But yeah, good win overall for Auburn. Not a lot of dunks in this game, oddly. Like Auburn normally has a lot of dunks. Only 2 dunks happen in this game for Auburn. Okay, so how is that not a technical foul right there on Grant Nelson? Does he? Never mind. I ain't gonna. The tech on Tahad was crazy after he get the block shot. Number 1, it wasn't a foul. Number 2, it definitely was not a technical foul afterwards. Crazy. It's alpha call, 3-point swing. Auburn only trailed in this game for 21 seconds. The game was only tied for 2 minutes and 24 seconds in total. Once Auburn took the lead, it was a wrap from there pretty much. So a really great game for the Auburn Tigers overall in this one. Let's look at some of the other things from the splits box here. Offensive rebounds. Missouri is a good offensive rebounding team, but when you think about teams like Mississippi State, Florida, Texas A&M, this stat right here has got to get better. 13-6 in favor of Missouri on the offensive glass. That's like the turnovers. Auburn did a good enough job of getting even, right? It was 16-16. You'll take that when you're able to force 16 when you give up 16. That's not good against a team like Missouri that does a really good job of forcing turnovers. It's not terrible, but you cannot have a situation where you are you're at deficit in the offensive glass 13-6, bro. Like that's just not something that you want to see happen. So yeah, I don't know, man. Got to do much better job with that. 18 assists on the day. Of the 49 made baskets for Auburn, of the 28 made baskets for Auburn, 18 of those comes off of assists. That's the thing that Auburn has been doing the absolute most this year. Is being able to share the basketball consistently. Only 10 of your buckets this game came off of non-assisted buckets. That is wonderful for your team to be able to have happen. Now, Missouri did a good job. They had 12 assists on the 21 buckets that they made, right? Like, so they only 9 unassisted baskets. So they moved the ball around pretty well. But this is a team that does a really good job of sharing the basketball. Let's see. Glenn, another name that I'm not sure I see very often, says, when you shoot 50% from the floor, we don't have many opportunities for offensive turnovers. I think you mean rebounds, but I agree. Yeah, I'm not saying that they need to out offensive board them. I'm saying you don't need to give up 13 of them. 13 is too many. Too many offensive boards given up. So they need to do a better, because I just think there are teams that are going to shoot so Missouri shot 38%. That's a percentage you want to be able to force teams into. 38% is a great defensive percentage, but you can't give up 13 boards. You can't do it. Like, that's just now second chance points. You did a pretty good job of that, right? Like they only had 9 second chance points. But off of 13 boards, that's again, your defense doing the work, but 13 offensive boards is too many, man. It's just too many. I think once you get past 10, you start to get into a place where you're giving up too many. And even though you're forcing a lot of missed shots, now again, their second defense really good in this game, and there are some other teams. But here's a case in point. A team like Florida, if you give up 13 boards, they're not going to have just 9, right? You got to focus on what you're doing to be able to box out and make sure you're not giving up those second opportunities to some of the teams that will score a little bit better than what this Missouri team was able to. And then I didn't even look at this stat. Bench points. Auburn did not get a lot off of the bench as opposed to Missouri, who got 47 from their bench to Auburn's 29. That's another thing where bench points usually is in favor of Auburn, but this is something I talked about as well in the pregame. Missouri's not one of those teams that doesn't go deep into their bench and can get scoring. They can get scoring from their bench, so you have to play consistently all 40 minutes because they're going to go 10, 11 guys deep into their rotation. So in fact, let's see, how many did they play off? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Let's just look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 guys from Missouri got double-digit minutes, and then one guy got 9 minutes. So they went 12 deep on their into their rotation. So again, this is what you're going to have against a team like Missouri. They've got enough guys to be able to throw bodies out there at you. But Auburn did a really good job of keeping the things consistent. Again, it's a good win, right? And I'm nitpicking the stuff, and I know the coaches are going to nitpick it to death, but it's a good win for Auburn. Looking forward to seeing how they continue to grow as they get into the next SEC contest, which is going to be on the road versus a South Carolina team that got embarrassed on the road today versus Mississippi State. So South Carolina is going to look for a bounce back game in their building. Some of those players for South Carolina were there at Auburn last year when Auburn absolutely embarrassed them on the road last year. So looking forward to seeing what this Auburn team's able to do in their second true road game of the season inside of the arena there in Columbia, Missouri. I'll get a few more comments here before we get out of here. Prentice says CBM passing skills are chef's kiss. Definitely did a good job of assisting the ball. He didn't try to get too fancy today. Sometimes he does that. Miles Kelly had an awful turnover trying to do a little behind the back pass in transition. That's usually something you were seeing from Chad last year. But yeah, Vandy is about to beat LSU. Auburn officially the top Tigers. Yeah, listen, man, I don't think there's any debate. The other Tigers in this league are not as good as Auburn. LSU is probably the second best Tigers in the league. I like this Missouri team, man. I think they're going to beat some teams that they're not supposed to. I'll be shocked if Dennis Gates and this Missouri team go winless in the SEC 2 years in a row. In fact, I think they'll be able to get 4 or 5 wins this year just off of their ability to defend. And it's going to be tough to beat them in their building. Prentice asked, what are the plus minus stats for the starters tonight? I can look that up for you. No problem. I got you right now. Auburn starters plus minus: Denver Jones at 17, Janai at 15, Chad at 17, Miles Kelly at 16, and Dylan Cardwell at 9. The only guys with negative plus minus were the guys that came in off the bench at the end of the game: CJ Williams, Shaheem Hudson, Presley Patterson, Blake Muselek, and Cheney had a plus 10. So those are the only guys with negative. Ja'Kai Howard drew even today. Tahad was a plus 1, and Cheney was a plus 10. So the vast majority of the guys that played significant minutes for Auburn had a positive plus minus. So good game overall for the Auburn Tigers today. All right, I'm going to get out of here because I got a lot of post-game work that I still have to do. But you guys make sure before you get out of here, you go ahead and share the content, hit that thumbs up on this one, like it for me. And then if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, we'll be back at y'all with more great content tomorrow as we have the weekend tailgate coming for you. But until the next time, and as always, War Eagle.